Nail-biting finishes have Virginia Tech men's and women's basketball holding on to tournament hopes.
And after Indiana's revolutionary turnaround, could Virginia Tech football become an instant competitor?
We're talking all that and more on this week's 3304 Tip-Off Show.
Hello and welcome from the Center for the Arts studio in Blacksburg, Virginia. I'm Riley Klaus, joined by Taylor Bretl. And Taylor, we had winter break. It's been a while since we've had a show, but I don't mind being huddled up here in the studio as compared to that cold weather outside.
Yes, we got the studio lights. It is warm in here, but no complaints about that. A big winter storm that's going to roll around too. So everyone watching, be safe from that. Do your grocery shopping before everything closes down. It's nice to be huddled up and warm. No complaints about that.
Well, I have to completely agree, Taylor. The forecast in Blacksburg is calling for 20 to maybe even over 30 inches of snow this weekend. A wide range. But Virginia Tech men's basketball has had some razor-thin margins this season at the final buzzer. Alex Kuchenmeister has more on the heroics and the heartbreak the team has weathered this season.
The Hokies have improved to 4-3 in conference play after a win at Syracuse on Wednesday night. VT is in the first four out category of bracketology right now, which means they would be right on the brink of making the NCAA tournament if the season ended today. However, three losses Virginia Tech have suffered have been very eerily similar, all in ACC play. They've all ended in gut-wrenching fashion. Let's take you back. On January 3rd, it's the start of the new year, Hokies travel to Wake Forest looking to win their seventh straight contest. They were on a roll. Jalen Bedford had 25, yet the game came down to the wire, and Christian Gerdak put down this layup to tie the game at 76 with under a minute remaining. But with time winding down, Nate Calamese razzled, dazzled, and drained this 24-foot step-back three to seal the deal for the Demon Deacons. They won 81-78. That's ACC loss number 1 for Virginia Tech. The very next game, the Hokies are back at Castle Coliseum to take on Stanford. The Hokies had a 10-point lead with just over 2 minutes remaining. But with a late turnover and missed free throws, that meant the Cardinal had a chance. Down by one, Ebuka Okori made this 32-footer for the win, spoiling a 21-point effort from Neo Abdallas, the standout freshman. This was a conference loss number 2 for Virginia Tech on the season. And after a home win versus Cal, they were able to bounce back there. It was a single-handedly the most heartbreaking loss of the season for the Hokies by far. January 14th, they traveled to Dallas to take on SMU. Virginia Tech is up by 4 with 8 seconds left, and they had the ball in their possession. But a steal followed by a B.J. Edwards layup with 5 seconds cut the lead to just 2. Missed free throws by Ben Hammond and Toby Lawal gave the Mustangs a chance, trailing by just 2 points with as many seconds in the match. Now that the scene is set, let's watch the most improbable, impossible, flat-out ridiculous shot of 2026. Boopy Miller from way downtown. SMU wins in thrilling fashion. This was ACC loss number 3 for Virginia Tech on the year. And despite these 3 games of heartbreak for the Hokies, they've been able to bounce back most recently in a game against Cuse. A similar situation presented itself. Up by 9 with just a minute 2 on the clock, VT had 2 costly turnovers. But this time, Lawal went to the line again and sank 2 monumental free throws with just 5 seconds on the clock, putting the game on ice. Although it was rocky, Mike Young's team was able to make the adjustment and get a massive ACC victory, improving to 4-3 in conference this season. With a tough schedule coming up, which includes a home game against Duke on the 31st, we'll see just how much the heartbreaking losses have taught the Hokies down the stretch.
Thanks, Alex. Well, Taylor, this team for Virginia Tech men's basketball has been entertaining, to say, in a lot of ways. And like Alex talked about, a lot of them coming down to the wire, including this last game against Syracuse, where they had to really tough it out to get a win.
Yeah, I mean, every game that's coming down to the wire, as you said, some are nice wins and some are heartbreak. They started off the season early, 4-0 in those games, lots of overtime wins, but recently it's been going in the other direction. Nice for a bounce back against Syracuse, but Virginia Tech gave up 15 points in the last 55 seconds to make this a scarier win than it should have been. Ended up being just a 2-point win, and you know, you got to clean up the things late game, especially ACC tournament, you know, just a couple of weeks away. If the Hokies want to make March Madness, you got to win these close games, and you cannot falter when it gets late.
You talk about the ACC tournament, a team that did real well in it last year, the Louisville Cardinals, who are up next on the schedule for Virginia Tech men's basketball. Taylor, after getting that momentum with a win over Syracuse, they're going to have to go on the road over to the state of Kentucky, where they've already had to bump up the game because of the upcoming snow that is expected in all of the area. What would a win against a team like Louisville mean for their, perhaps, tournament hopes?
Yeah, I mean, you look at the rest of the schedule for Virginia Tech, and if you look at the games where they should win versus where they could struggle, they're probably going to end up 9-10 wins in the ACC. But Louisville's a chance. They're still hanging on to number 23 on the rankings. That's a chance for a ranked win. Virginia Tech got the one at home against UVA, which is looking better and better with how the Cavaliers are playing this season. But being able to get a road win against an ACC opponent that's ranked, that's one of those little things that can bump you up against other teams in the tournament.
Without a doubt, because when it is all said and done, that resume is going to be what's important. So they still have a lot to do before that stage.
Yeah, and there's lots of talk on that. Hayden Tolbert's going to have us covered on what Virginia Tech has to do to get themselves in a comfortable position down the stretch. Hayden?
Well, we are more than halfway through the 2025-2026 season of college basketball, and the Hokies are one interesting team that will be talked about when it comes to selection day for the teams eligible for the tournament. With a current 49 net ranking, Virginia Tech has had some significant wins to help with their resume and disappointing losses they would like to have back when it comes to being left out of the tournament. But don't worry, I have came up with 5 key components that the Hokies need to do to feel confident and comfortable when it comes to their name being called in the field of 68. Number 1, don't turn the ball over late. In all of but one of their ACC games, the Hokies had close games that came down to the final few possessions. And for Virginia Tech, it is vital to take care of the ball. In their most recent game, they had 2 key turnovers that gave Syracuse a chance to tie the game late. But for Hokie fans, I'm sure that would save years off their life if they can be able to not turn the ball over. Moving on to number 2, making free throws. It is a simple one, but for the Hokies, getting to the free throw line is easy for them. They rank top 50 in the nation when it comes to getting to the free throw line, and it is most important you finish the game and make your free throws. Number 3, get your shooters open. The Hokies can be lethal from behind the arc, and that is with the help of Jaden Schutt. We're going to go back to the Cal game. You see Hokies trying to get into a set, and Jaden Schutt comes from the right side and moves from the ball cross court to the left ring with a pick from Lawal and Hansberry, and it's an easy free from him. Very simple play, but it can be a possession that decides the game later on. Now, number 4, rely on your front court. Arguably, this is the most important. With play like the one we saw earlier, it is not just setting picks that the front court is so good at. It is also being physical. Both Amani Hansberry and Toby Lawal bring a unique skill set to how they get to the basket. With Lawal, it is almost his 50-inch vertical, getting him rebounds and buckets. And for Hansberry, it's physical toughness and fake give-and-goes that are so effective. But also, Christian Gerdak gives the Hokies a good bench scorer who doesn't give the opposing team any rest. Finally, number 5. Play through guards like the front court. The back court for the Hokies gives something unique that not a lot of teams have. With Ben Hammond, it is a quick movement that is hard to keep up with. In Neo Abdallas, it is a slow, at his own pace playmaking and scoring that is hard to stop. Plus, a 6'9" point guard is a lot of help as well. With over a month left to play, the Hokies are in a very fortunate position where they control their own destiny. With key wins on the road and continuing their protection of the home court, Virginia Tech could be able to turn those unlucky March Madness type games they've had already into wins of their own come tournament time. Guys.
Thanks, Hayden. Well, while there's lots to talk about with men's basketball, the women's team for the Hokies, they've been in some close games as well, including that recent game against Clemson, Riley.
Yeah, how about that one that was in Castle Coliseum on a Thursday night? Ended up being, they were down 13, which is their largest margin there. But what an incredible effort, right, against a former Virginia Tech coach in Sean Poppy, coming in, Kayla King back in town against Clemson, and they were down. It really felt like, but then they flipped the script in the second half, specifically that fourth quarter, and Castle Coliseum was alive and well in that game and helped the Hokies end up getting the victory.
Yeah, I mean, you turn this to the defense. Hokies offense kind of struggling throughout the game, definitely picked up in that fourth quarter, which helped. But Clemson, 68 points with 2.5 minutes left. They finished the game with 68 points. Virginia Tech, an 11-0 run to end the game. I mean, you got to credit the offense, you got to credit the defense. But for a Clemson offense that was getting layup after layup after layup, tons of fouls, tons of free throws, to play clean defensive basketball in the last 2.5 minutes. A huge reason why Duffy and her squad was able to walk away with the win.
And with that, the Hokies are all of a sudden on a little bit of a roll. With that thrilling comeback against Clemson, Virginia Tech is riding a 4-game win streak in ACC play. Can the chemistry in Castle continue for Megan Duffy's squad? Our own Kayla Bogdan has more on the elements which have set the table for strong results this year.
Back for the spring semester, the Virginia Tech women's basketball team is hitting the court with renewed energy. Ready to make their mark in ACC play, they are gaining momentum. The Hokies are currently holding a 5-3 record in conference play and an impressive 14-5 overall. The Hokies are showing that they are a team to watch this season. They are coming off a hot performance against Syracuse, where they surged to a 20-point lead, bouncing back strongly after their previous ACC loss streak. And the Hokies delivered an outstanding showing against Clemson in a nail-biting game at Castle Coliseum, securing their 7th consecutive win on the home court and demonstrating their growing confidence and cohesion as a team. Karis Baker and Carly Wenzel continue to remain prominent players on the team, leading the Hokies to a strong start, scoring consecutive triples to open the game. Baker and Wenzel stayed strong the whole game, both finishing off with 24 points, making it Baker's 6th 20-point effort of the season and Wenzel's 3rd. The Hokies had an intense game against Clemson, leading in the first quarter but trailing by 6 during the half. They matched their career high of 23 made free throws, showing they have stability in the core of the game. As the Hokies look to keep their momentum going, they head on the road for their next ACC matchup at Wake Forest this Sunday, January 25th. They'll then return to Castle Coliseum on Thursday, January 29th to take on Pitt in front of the home crowd. Wake Forest currently sits on the opposite end of the ACC standings at 2-6 in conference play, but with a solid 12-8 overall record. Pitt has had some struggle, however, going 1-7 in the ACC and holding an 8-13 record overall. The Hokies, coming off their dominant win over Syracuse, will look to build on this performance and reinforce their presence in ACC play.
Well, thank you, Kayla. Taylor, basketball season is still rolling on, but we can officially mark the end of the college football season, where a whole lot went down since the last show that people were on this desk for. The college football playoff was completed. And how about that matchup between Miami and Indiana being the final 2 teams, Taylor?
Yeah, I would love to go back and watch our show before the season started and see if the name Indiana came out of anyone's mouth when talking about the college football playoff. I mean, what a turnaround of a program for Curt Cignetti. I mean, 16-0, the only team to go 16-0 since, what was it, Yale in 18-something? Or
way back in the day.
Way back in the day. It's been a long time coming. Just pretty impressive for Indiana, and to truly end it, that storybook ending. And then a shout out to Miami. I mean, they get in the college football playoff. Some people thought they belonged. Some people thought they didn't. They show that they belong despite being the 10 seed, making it all the way to the championship and losing by just 1 score. Some impressive stuff out of the ACC.
Right, for Miami, like you said, barely getting in to go all the way, maybe proved why there needs to be 12 teams that could have a shot at it. But you talk about Indiana, a historical season, but you know what's also historical is their turnaround under Curt Cignetti. And it's kind of changed expectations all across the country now, where teams are expected within the first 2 years to go and have these type of results. But I want to bring it back to the local area. I don't know if national championship is necessarily on everyone's radar, but how quickly could Virginia Tech turn around with James Franklin at the center of the fold now?
Yeah, you don't want to get, ahead of expectations, or however I want to word that. You don't want to jump the gun and say, hey, the Hokies can do it, let's watch for it next year. We've seen that kind of time and time again. Lots of hype going into the season. Doesn't really plan out that way. But James Franklin, what he's been able to do in the transfer portal, I think is huge. We saw the guys he was able to take that were committed to Penn State, but that's going to be a lot of guys coming out of high school. How many freshmen are really going to play for the Hokies? You need to attack in the portal. You saw Indiana do it with Mendoza, clearly the key guy to their team, likely to be the #1 overall pick. So Franklin's doing a great job in the portal. I think he still has to attack there a little bit more. But the Hokies, I mean, college football playoff might be a step too far, but contending in the ACC, some of the top programs like Clemson being one of them might be faltering. It might be time for the boys in Blacksburg to kind of jump up those ranks.
Well, and you take a look at the national buzz, a couple of way too early, and they do preface it with way too early, top 25 polls, but Virginia Tech is finding themselves in the top 25 and some of those expectations. And really, when you take a look at the opponents they might have to play next year and the state of the ACC, Taylor, it feels pretty wide open going forward.
Yeah, I mean, you look at some of those, like you said, Virginia Tech sitting around 23, 24, 25. You look at the outer conference schedule, they did cancel that game against JMU. That's one that you kind of could look at, could be a good out-of-conference win, but they replaced it with SMU on the road. So honestly, in my opinion, that exchange could advantage the Hokies if they get a win in that game. SMU's been a pretty dominant program since joining the ACC, just very recently, but they made the college football playoffs, and in this recent season, they were still solid overall. So Virginia Tech, they kind of got a gauntlet in their ACC opponents, but those are the teams you need to beat to get into the college football playoffs.
Right, we're looking at plenty ahead when it comes to that, but unfortunately, our time has come to an end on this show, Taylor.
Yeah, it has. Well, we thank you guys for watching this edition of the 3304 Sports Tip-Off. Follow us on social media at 3304 Sports for the latest updates. For our reporters, Alex Kuchenmeister, Hayden Tolbert, and Caleb Bogdan, my co-host Riley Klaus, I'm Taylor Bretl, saying so long for now.